Going live. Self-trust is about staying true to our authentic selves. It's having clarity and confidence in our choices, in our decisions, and it's about being in tune with our self-knowledge and our inner wisdom, as well as our gifts. When you have that self-knowledge, that's what helps us determine if someone or something is good for us. And it's not about getting it right every time. Self-trust is not about certainty. It's really more about, can I trust myself enough that I'll make the decision that's right for me at the time with the information that I have. And if I don't get it right, I will be okay. I will learn. A few key points that you might see is hiding your authentic self, where you don't show up as yourself. Maybe you find that you imitate people, or you play a really small version of who you are. You play a version of who you've been told has been acceptable. And I want to acknowledge that for some folks, depending on your socio-political climate and environment that you're in, it may not always be safe to do this, particularly with certain parts of your identity. Second one is difficulty making decisions. This might show up with procrastination on decisions, where you kind of hem and haw and go back and forth and you ruminate on what's the right choice. And you get stuck or paralyzed in the fear of, is this right, is this wrong, and what the outcomes could be. As part of that, we might over-rely on other people to make those decisions or choices for us. So I want someone else to make the choice for me, so I don't have to be responsible for the outcome or the consequence for choosing incorrectly. You might find that you do reassurance seeking and asking all your friends or loved ones, what do you think I should do? And that can be really difficult on your relationships. But more than that, what happens is it almost robs us of our ability to feel capable in doing it ourselves. Social disconnection can also come as part of difficulty with self-trust. If I was hurt or betrayed, I may mistrust my inner compass on who is safe, who is unsafe. And if there's so much fear about making the wrong choice, I might actually pull back from relationships and isolate and disconnect out of fear that I'm going to get it wrong or I'm going to get hurt. The last one is lacking boundaries. Here's the thing with boundaries. If I don't trust my inner experience, if I have a feeling about something or an opinion, but I don't trust that or I dismiss it, I'm going to be far less likely to take action on setting a boundary because I might gaslight myself out of that feeling, wondering if I was being too sensitive or over dramatic, or was it really that bad, or was it really that uncomfortable? So if we don't trust our internal world, having boundaries, let alone protecting ourselves, can become very tricky. So what gets in the way of self-trust? Stress, trauma, oppression for marginalized folks, attachment wounds, all of these things can impact our ability to trust ourselves. If we experienced a caregiver being very misattuned to us, either where there was lack of attunement, somebody wasn't connected to our inner experience, we weren't seen, or our experience was met with a reaction that didn't fit or wasn't soothing or safe for that internal experience. When that happens chronically, or we get chronic invalidation in response to our inner experience, that's when we really start to get disconnected from what's going on internally. How do you build self-trust? You have an inner experience. Sad, you're hot, you're sleepy, you're hungry, you're excited. If that is met with some sort of punishment, invalidation, minimization, or even being completely ignored, what we learn to do is say, my reality is not valid. And we either dismiss it, we push it down, or we don't know how to make sense of it. So our attachment experiences are so core, so fundamental to us being able to learn to trust ourselves. Some of the key characteristics of environments where that can happen is if you grow up in a home that's really critical and judgmental. You as a child get really fearful about making the wrong choice if the choices that you make, the things you do and say, come with a heavy price of criticism and judgment. And when that's coming from your caregivers, it's so incredibly painful that It's easier for us to push aside our own experience in order to seem favorable to whoever is doing the judging or shaming. If love was conditional, meaning I only had connection and approval or even safety when I portrayed a particular version of myself, then I get disconnected from who I really am, what I really feel, in service of this version of me that gets the approval and the love. And that can also come up with good kid mentality, where you were the easy kid, where you learned don't rock the boat. If you have big feelings about something, keep them to yourself. There's a generational and a cultural piece to this too. Families that really emphasize behavioral obedience, right? We don't look under the surface. We just see, are you well behaved or not? If you are constantly rescued by your parent or caregiver, similar to when we seek all that external validation, if you were rescued as a child from discomfort or failure, or someone's always coming in to fix something for you or make choices for you, you never develop that inner compass to say, I think this is what's right for me. Let me try this out. And that's how we learn. We don't always get it right. So that experience of learning I'm capable gets taken away from us. If we're betrayed or harmed by someone, especially if they were supposed to be safe for us, if they were supposed to protect us in some way, this rocks our self-trust to the core, because biologically we're hardwired to go towards those safe people, to seek comfort from them. So it is incredibly confusing and damaging to our internal world to have that kind of betrayal or harm when it's supposed to be someone that's trustworthy for us. So that can make us question who is safe, who's unsafe. I don't trust my internal read on people. And then of course we can have all sorts of community and cultural influences on who we are, who we should be, that can play out in how we show our authenticity. I want to highlight through all of this, if any of you are finding your mind going towards a bit of self-judgment, that all of this is adaptive. Struggling with self-trust at its core is actually being disconnected from your own body. Being disconnected from your inner experience is being disconnected from your own body. And that is so incredibly adaptive when you've grown up in high stress environments or with attachment wounds or trauma, because you needed to keep yourself safe. You needed to stay connected to your caregivers, or your body was in a freeze response with those traumatic situations where your body naturally disconnected you from your experience in order to protect you from pain. So please know that if you identify with some of the things I'm talking about today, it is not a character flaw. There's nothing wrong with you. And in fact, this was your body doing exactly what it was designed to do, which is really to stay safe and to stay connected. This becomes problematic when we are disconnected at the cost of ourselves. So great to figure out how we stayed safe as kids, but in adulthood, we need to be able to make our own decisions and choices. We need to know what we think and feel so that we can have healthy relationships and set boundaries so we don't lose ourselves. If we don't have access to that information, those adult tasks become so difficult for us. More than that, if we don't have awareness of who we are, we can get so stuck in fear, whether it's about making decisions, the people that we have in our lives, or just what your future looks like. So to be trusting of yourself means you have to get to know yourself on a visceral level. You have to be connected to your body, because really our felt sense of the body is like another language that we have to learn how to decode. If you had a parent who was maybe more emotionally immature or even narcissistic, you can often get the message that your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions are too much, or they're not important. It can go both ways. So even if those experiences weren't outwardly punished, if they were just ignored, we internalize those messages about our own inner experience, which can further pull us away from it. Trauma in particular can make it so difficult for us to be connected to our bodies, which again is part of our self-trust. If we had that freeze response, it also makes it so confusing for us to discern, is this fear and anxiety? Is this a message I need to listen to? What can also happen is, because of our stress response that has gotten stored in the body, we can be more likely to either see danger where there isn't. So we might mistrust when we could be trusting, or We miss the danger when it's actually there. That can be because we're totally disconnected from what's here. It could be, hey, I actually feel what's here, but I override it because I've learned to dismiss it or minimize it. If self-trust is something that originates in the body, it's your visceral experience, building self-trust is not a thinking process. It's going to be a feeling process. It's going to be about dropping down into your body safely and slowly and learning the language of your body. It's being connected to your internal world, not from up here. We can put a cognitive label on our feeling, but really feelings and emotions are held inside the body. So to build self-trust, we have to be willing to go towards the body. And again, if you've been disconnected or being inside your body has felt unsafe or overwhelming, then this is a process that you're going to want to pace yourself. There's no rush into this. You can't make it go faster, but being able to safely approach your body is going to be your unique process and timeline. One of the ways that you might start to do this is familiarizing yourself with sensations that are a part of your everyday life. When I feel tired, what's happening in my body? When I feel hungry, what's happening in my body? When I'm around someone I really love, what happens? My shoulders relax, my cheeks go up, I feel light. When I'm stressed, I got that work email or there's a deadline or someone cut me off in traffic, notice what that stress feels like. Notice what it feels like when someone maybe crosses a boundary or doesn't hear you. We fly past those signals and cues so quickly. They happen so fast. If we don't slow down to catch them, we're missing a lot of information. So you can start with things that are already happening inside your body every day. But practices, if you're willing, practices like mindfulness and meditation, different types of yoga, all of these are so geared towards arriving at your present moment experience, and there's a big component of coming into your body through that. So this doesn't mean you need to adopt a 45-minute meditation practice. It could be as simple as, I'm going to set a reminder on my phone 1 time a day, 2 times a day, to just drop in and check in. We get so busy during our days, we're on autopilot. So many of us might sit at our desk and be like, oh, I haven't gone to the bathroom for 3 hours, or I'm actually hungry. So even something as simple as setting a reminder to check in with yourself about, how am I feeling right now? What's happening in my body? What emotions are here? That can be a wonderful, just dipping a toe in the pond into your body without overwhelming your nervous system if it needs to build up capacity to do that. The other part of self-trust is clarifying your values. What brings you meaning? What's important to you? What makes you feel like it's a fulfilling life? Because this is all connected to your own authenticity. Self-trust is our self-knowledge. Self-knowledge is in the body, but it's also about what's important to us and how we want to live our lives. And we often use our experience in the body to help us navigate those choices. So if I value intimate friendships, but what's happening for me is a lot of fear and anxiety about maybe trusting people, and I'm talking with someone and I'm getting sensations in my body, I need to be able to tell, is that an indication that this is not a person who's safe? Or is that an indication of something else? Is it old stuff that's coming up? So the more we clarify our values, it helps us determine making choices that are led from those values places, led from intention versus led from our fears and anxieties, as well as helping us discern who and what is safe and unsafe. I would also want you to think about, what would it look like for me to show up in the world if I was trusting myself more? What would I be doing? What would my relationships look like? How would I feel if I trusted myself more? Those are the 3 areas I would start with. Finding some small way to connect with your body, to build up that capacity and knowing of that inner language, clarifying what your values are so that you can make choices not based on thoughts and fears, but really based on your values, while of course always holding space for doing what's safe for you in the moment, and really creating this picture of what you want your life to look like. Would I be more authentic? Would I be more fearless? Would I go for relationships or showing up in settings and communities or my work in a way that's really taking up space and more authentic to me? What I want you to know is that self-trust really is a skill that can be built up. It's a muscle, just like so many other things. And when we understand why we struggle with self-trust or what got in the way, that's often the pathway out of it, is to repair the things that weren't nurtured, especially if these were attachment wounds growing up. When we nurture those capacities and do our inner child healing work, where we relate to our inner experience the way we do to a child with healthy attachment, that's what really starts to build up that capacity. This is why I love inner child work. It's not just that it feels good, there's science behind the parallels between what creates secure attachment and self-trust. So think about this. With secure attachment, the parent is attuning to you as the child, right? I see your feeling. I'm helping you name it. I'm helping you soothe it and regulate it in a safe way. And that's what builds our self-trust. Oh, this is what I feel. This is valid. I can take action based on this. When we didn't have that, and we might struggle in adulthood, we actually can do those same practices for ourselves through our reparenting practices, through our healing inner child practices, by attuning to ourselves, right? What's here? What do I notice? What am I feeling? What emotions are here? Validating those things, offering empathy and care, relating to ourselves the way that a healthy parent would. So in this process, you're not just building self-trust, you're also building secure attachment within yourself, giving yourself what you need, not just now, but what you needed as a child. I love this work because it has arms into so many different places in our lives. So often the things that we are struggling with in the here and now have ties back to our childhood. And that's not to say we're blaming our parents or blaming our childhood for things. It's really just the lens to understand how we got here, as well as how we get out of here. So if this is work that you're interested in, you're working on building your self-trust, you're working on coming home to yourself or validating your experience, trying to build more emotion regulation, trying to build healthier relationships, or really trying to take yourself to the next level where you're not playing so small and you really can take up space as who you are, I would recommend checking out my 8-week live group program. It's the first live group coaching program, meaning that anyone who's not in California actually can sign up for this program and work directly with me in that group setting. There's so many modules built around self-trust and helping you build up the capacity towards embodiment and these reparenting practices. And this can be tricky work to do on your own. If you're looking for some guidance and some structure and having me as a checkpoint along the way, then this would be perfect for you. I hope this was helpful for you all. It was so wonderful to see you all here and at the end of a Monday. I know it's a hard day. So I hope you all enjoy the rest of your Monday and I will see you soon. Goodbye, everyone.